Welcome to the Sales Influence Podcast, where we talk about finding the why in how people buy. I'm your host, Victor Antonio, and today I want to talk about price. Money. Is it really about price? Too often. I just finished doing a sales training program this past weekend with the company, and what really bothered me was that the manager, not the salespeople so much, the manager of these salespeople kept bringing up the fact that price was an issue. To which I said, respectfully, of course, I said, you're having too many commodity conversations and you're not having enough value conversations. That means basically is that if you focus on selling things on pricing, commodity things, then guess what? The customer's always going to judge you on price. Unless you learn how to sell a value, if I can say it so bluntly, you're screwed. You need to learn how to sell value. But let's go tackle the price objection. Is it really about price? I think it's more than just about price. It's about a lot of other things. So I want to share with you this curve. It's called the price concern curve. And basically it's how the buyer's mindset changes over time during your conversation about price. Let me say it another way because I really want you to get this. Let me frame this correctly for you. Let's say that you're doing a 1-hour presentation to a customer, right? In other words, it's just going to take you to close this deal maybe in 1 hour. Let's say you're selling, some type of technology product. And as you're talking to the customer, initially, the customer's going to bring up the concern about price, like how much is this? So the common assumption by salespeople is that the price concern by the customer is constant throughout the sales process. Let me say it again. The common assumption by salespeople is that the price concern by the customer is constant throughout the sales process. But in reality, this isn't the case. And in fact, the meaning of price itself changes during the process. Now, when I kind of first heard this and really started thinking about it, it made sense. Because in my sales experience, what I discovered is that price concerns do change over time. But it wasn't until I ran across this small study by Neil Rackham in his book, Major Account Selling, that shows that there are really like 3 phases or 3 stages of buyer concern regarding the right application and pricing. In this case, I just want to talk about pricing. So I want you to imagine this visual, that you have a curve, and the curve starts high on price concern, drops down to not so concerned, and then comes back up to price concern again. And it's during that 45-minute, 1-hour conversation that you're having is that price concern will change. Let's walk through it slowly. When you first begin to talk to a customer, at the beginning, in the initial phase of the conversation, price concern is high. Along with whether or not your product is the right solution. So those are the 2 things the customer is thinking about. Is this the right product, right solution? But more importantly, the biggest concern is this product within my price range? Okay, that's almost, let's say, within the first 10 to 15 minutes of the conversation. As you move into the presentation of the product, as the buyer moves into the middle phase of the process, the concern for pricing drops. Listen carefully. Once you get into your presentation, the concern in the buyer's mind for pricing drops. Now they're more concerned about focusing in on whether this is the right product or service that they need to purchase. Now, as you move through that presentation, you explain the product, you explain the service, you move into the 3rd phase, and that is as you begin to close. And as you begin to close, let's call that the 3rd phase, the final phase of the conversation, as you, the seller, attempt to get a buying commitment from the customer, in other words, try to close the deal, all of a sudden, you see a shift. And the customer's already decided whether or not the product is right for them, but now towards the close, what are they concerned about? Price. They're concerned about price, right? You with me so far? But are they really concerned about price? Well, if you believe Neil Rackham, what he says, it's not just about price when you get to the end. Let's do this slowly. You start out the conversation, the customer doesn't have a lot of information. So they're concerned about price, but they're also concerned about what they're buying. As you're going through the presentation, the middle part, the customer's concerned about whether this product or service is right for them. Price is a concern, but it's not right now a priority. Right now, they just want to understand, is this what I want to buy? Is this right for me? And now, as you move into the close, mentally, the customer's decided, this product does work for me, but how much is it? How much is it going to cost? And too often, salespeople focus on just price. They think that the reason the customer doesn't want to buy is solely because of price. But here's the revelation. Pay attention. This is important. Here's the revelation that it's not just about price. There are other things driving the concern. Besides price, there's other things like, for example, how much effort will it require for me to implement this new application? Now the customer's thinking price, but he's also thinking, well, how much effort is this going to require me to implement this new application? Another thing that might come up in his mind or her mind, what are the risks of making this decision personally and professionally? If I decide to buy this product, how is it going to impact me personally or the company? Or if I do, how much demand, if I do decide to buy this product or service, how much demand will this put on my time? How will this impact me? Another question may be, what are the long-term ramifications of going with this product or this service? So as you can begin to see that towards the end of your presentation, as you move towards the close, it's not just about the price. There are intangible, concerns that the customer has that really need to be addressed. Now, for those of you who've studied my program, Blocking Objections, this is why this is important. Because if you get to the end, you should have blocked the price objection. You should have blocked the how much effort objection. You should have blocked the what are the risk objections, what are the demands on my time objection, and what are the long-term ramifications objection. If you did not block those throughout your presentation, then when you get to the end, the customer is not only thinking price, they're also thinking about the intangible concerns regarding the implementation of that product or that service. So in other words, the customer cares about price, but towards the end, they shift away from price. So they're more concerned about the consequences of the decision. This is a big statement. They're more concerned about the consequences of the decision more so than price. The majority of deals lost often have more to do with unanswered questions or uneasiness about actually making the change than price itself. And I want you to think about this again. If you haven't studied my program, Blocking Objections, I cannot emphasize to you how important that program is. In today's market, it's not about overcoming objections during a presentation, a value conversation. It is about blocking objections. And if you don't know how to block objections, your close rate will suffer in the end. And this study by Rackham, when it talks about price concerns, really emphasizes the fact that once the customer gets towards the end, ready to make a buying decision, and you're trying to close them, that it's not just about price. If you have not blocked the other objections, you are not going to get that deal. So systematically, you have to block throughout. So I really wanted you to understand what's going on sometimes in the customer's head. It's not just about price. Price is a concern at the beginning, but if you can sell value in the middle, the real pitch, how do you tie it back to increasing revenues? How do you tie your product or service back to reducing their costs? How do you tie product or service back to expanding their market share? If you can sell the value in the middle, when you go towards the end, the final phase of closing, keep in mind, it's not the price. And I'll push back all day on this. It's not the price. If they're not closing deals, it's because you missed an objection. You did not block an objection, and the customer's walking out of there just a little bit concerned and uneasy. And they're going to say, I'll think about it. And for those of you who have not seen my video or heard my podcast on I'll think about it, I think you need to actually study that. But if you want to reduce the amount of I'll think about it you'll learn to block objections and understand that towards the end of a presentation, it's not about price, it's about consequences and concerns that the customer has on whether or not, if they buy your product or service, how will that impact them? And that's what you need to keep in mind. This is Victor Antonio, and that's it for this Sales Influence podcast. Don't forget to leave me some feedback on iTunes, Stitcher, or YouTube. Let me know what you think. I would greatly appreciate it. And for those of you who've done so, thank you very much. Also, check out my sales training website, seminarsonselling.com. You'll find great training programs for you and your company to help you increase those revenues. Remember, either raise your level of expectation in terms of what you want to do, and the only way to do that is to get more training. And lastly, I want to thank you for listening. This is Victor Antonio, always reminding you, selling ain't hard when you know how. Take care.
Every manager can feel it. The difference between a motivated, value-driven sales team and one that's stuck in a rut. CEOs know the difference too. They can see it clearly in the profit and loss columns. The question is, how do you get your team to this elite level? Is there something extra you can do to break through the remaining resistance and equip them with the right mindset to grow your business? Yes, there is. But you're not going to do it with one of those cheesy inspirational speakers or some self-proclaimed guru. What you need is someone with a real business track record to deliver key insights in a captivating way, to give your team the right tools for selling in today's tough marketplace. Enter Victor Antonio, experienced executive, innovative thinker, compelling speaker. He's ready to deliver the message you need your people to hear, not with a canned speech, but a customized, dynamic keynote designed to deliver results. Bring Victor Antonio to your next event before the competition does.